Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daryl Ferguson, Director of Performance Management with Xtime, and we really thank you for spending some time with us today. We're excited to be presenting Recapturing Declined Service Revenue, and we've got one of our managers of performance management with us today, Michael Fedikovich. He's going to be taking us through the presentation. Just a couple of notes of housekeeping before we get started. Because we've got so many folks logged into the call, we do have everyone on mute. But that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So we've got a question bar in your control panel. In the GoToWebinar control panel, it's probably on the right side of your screen. You see questions, just hit the drop down. At any time throughout the presentation, drop a question in. I will kind of be moderating today. So when I see some questions start to pile up, I'll interrupt Michael and we'll take those questions as quickly as we can. If we have a lot, then we'll, of course, do those at the end of the presentation. We'll stay here as long as you need us to. Another thing, one of the main questions we get most often is, how do I get a copy of the presentation? Well, that's super simple. In that same control panel, you've got a handouts button, a little bar, and it says 1 of 5. In there, I've already placed a PDF version of today's presentation, so feel free at any time throughout the presentation to grab that. In the event you can't grab it or there's a problem, you did receive a reminder about an hour ago from me reminding you of the webinar today. So if you just want to respond back to that and ask me for a copy, I'm happy to send it to you. I've also will have the ability in about an hour and a half after the presentation to give you a copy of the recording. So if you also want to have a recording of today's session, we can get that to you as well. So don't forget, put questions in throughout the presentation. And one thing I do need to do, since we do have everybody on mute, if someone in the audience could just say you can hear us, make sure that you can hear us and that you can see the first slide, which says Cox Automotive in the top left-hand corner. Somebody in the audience can just let us know that you guys can hear us today. That'd be great. All right, perfect. Thanks a lot. All right, so that being said, again, I'm Daryl Ferguson. I direct the performance management team here at Xtime, and we're fortunate today to have Michael Fedikovich. He's one of our managers of performance management, and he leads a team of our PMs that are working with you every day to help increase your profits and make customers happier. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Michael, so take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Fedikovich. I'm a manager, performance management here at Xtime. I've been with Xtime about 4 years now. Have a solid book of clients, just a little over 100 clients I deal with regular basis every month. Team under me with about 150 each. So between myself and my team, about 1,500 to 2,000 unique clients we're dealing with every month. And, you know, one of the things that actually brought this topic to my attention, I sit in on a lot of calls with my team. I help my team out. And obviously these days, customers, clients are very sharp. They're more educated. They're more educated. They're better consumers. And, the ASR, the declined service process has changed, where your staff would recommend services to a client that came in, and the client, yeah, okay, and you'd never hear from them again, and maybe they'd come back the next time and all the work would be done, and there was no history, there was no follow-up, there's no accountability. And so I was actually with one of my better clients, a large store in the Midwest, doing 350 ROs a day, and heavy maintenance store. And I sat there and I watched the process, and from check-in to the ASR being done, the technicians doing a good inspection, and then they would show the customers what was needed, but there was no upsell, there was no accountability, and their ASR numbers are very low. And for what they were doing, we just kind of dived in and figured out what was going on. And through this webinar, I'll kind of show you some of the process and some of the steps we took with what I took with that store, for their profitability and just for their process, and just to make their ASR process a little more refined, defined, and something that they could see a profit come from. So a few things with what we do in service. My background before Xtime was I did retail. I was in the retail side for 14 years. So, there was a lot of experience there. So, I know what you guys go through on the, the front line and what you see. And there, there's a big difference between what we did years ago versus kind of what is being done now. Years ago, we wrote on the back of an RO, customer needs brakes, tires on a greasy RO. You brought it up, you got the parts quote, and you hope that we sold it. If we didn't sell it, the RO got closed, it got filed. That was the end of it. There was never any follow-up. Nobody ever knew what happened to the RO. We don't know if the person got the work done, didn't get the work done. They came back the next time. Sometimes somebody remembered it was done. Sometimes somebody didn't remember, did you do it? They may come in the next time with all new stuff. And well, we recommended that last time. Well, how come we didn't get the sale? So, that was kind of where we were, in the past. And, another part of a lot of our decline process was, well, if we got any blowback or kind of, pushback from a customer, the first thing we did was I have a coupon, or let me see what I can do. Let me talk to my manager. What I noticed and what I've seen with most of my team and their clients, well, we devalue ourselves. So, some of the things I want to talk about, and I won't hold you up too long, but some of the things I want to talk about is how to show the value in our service without having to give it away. And we have a few different ideas and in some different ways that we promote here at Xtime and with our tools that will allow for that. So, again, in the past, we relied a lot for our decline services, for a labor op, hopefully that the advisors used in the past. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe they noted it, maybe they didn't. We just had generic reporting. We hope that somehow we could find what came in. Technicians would recommend work. Work would come back later. Nobody knew who recommended it. A technician might recognize a car. They might not recognize it. Then we'd have, squabbles inside the shop. That's my job. That's not, other things we would go through. Pricing might not be right. So customer might actually take that, I need brakes, and they take what you say home. You wrote it on the RO, on their hard copy. They take it home. Then they call back 2 weeks later. Hey, you told me $250 for brakes. So where'd you get that number from? I don't have any proof of it. I don't have any history of it. You're going to lose your customers. It's just a retention game at that point. Again, with that and not having any history in the system, we were just kind of beating our heads against the wall. So one of the things we try to do, and one of the things that we're very good at with our system, is we have a decline service process. So the customer comes in and, they come in, we do the multi-point inspections, part of the whole process. We take care of their primary concerns initially, and then we have the ASRs, afterwards, the additional service recommendations. During the process, your advisors will present that to the client. The client says no, then we can document that right in the system. It's vital in today's, world that everything has been documented. Many of our customers that we see coming into dealerships aren't necessarily looking to haggle for price. What they're looking for is best value. So with doing a proper MPI and then a decline service, that customer is going to shop you. But what they're going to do is they're going to come back to you and say, hey, I've shopped around, you're the best price, I have a relationship with you, I know you care about my car. What's the price of that service you recommended to me last time? Well, with using our decline service process, everything will be stored in the system. There's no question about what we quoted, how much we quoted, who quoted it, and what technician found it. So with that, with a nice MPI and a nice follow-up process, we're less likely to actually have to discount any services. And with that, the customer will see more value in your service. They'll feel that, I don't want to say respect, but you care about their vehicle, you care about their safety. You went through the process, you stored all the information, they called back 2 days later, they emailed you, We said, hey, last time I was in there, you told me I needed this, this, and this. Yes, Mrs. Jones, that's correct. You need this, this, and this. This was the price. We can schedule you in for that. With the process of following up with the customers and having the accountability, your service staff isn't running back to that back dungeon where all the ROs are stored at, hoping that they find that one RO for Mrs. Jones that when she calls and says, hey, the last time I was in there, you guys told me I needed 4 or 5 things. I don't remember any of them because I don't know anything about cars. Or I know things about cars, I just don't remember what you told me. I mean, it could be any way. With this process, everything is stored. Your advisors aren't going crazy trying to find that, those recommendations. The history is right in front of them, and the recapturing that business will be a lot easier. So with our setups, we have different ways for services to be kind of auto-generated. The history can be found a lot easier. When a customer calls you, or even if they go onto your website in your web portal, they put their phone number in, or they find some way to identify themselves. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to identify that customer. It's going to pull their vehicle up, and it's going to show them their history. So right away, it's almost acts as a soft sell for your dealership, because the customer is not getting that initial hard sale where it's, hey, you need this, this, this. They actually know about it already, and then they're just kind of getting it again. They're kind of getting that information one more time. So that is one of the benefits of using the decline service. We have different reports, and I'll get into those a little bit later, that'll show you how you can track your ASRs, your decline services, how you can find different ways of finding different price points, who's doing more, who's doing less, things like that. Your quotes will stay accurate. I mean, there will be price changes at some point, but in general, you won't have a customer telling you that you told me XYZ, $250 for a timing belt when the timing belt's $999. The system will store everything that's part of that quote in the system. The staff will be more accountable to the whole process, but they'll enjoy doing it simply because they don't have to go crazy. Everything is right there for them, and there's no extra work that they need to do. With that, there will be more profit coming back to the store, simply because all the information is accurate, and it actually will make your store look much more professional, where there's no second guessing or, hey, let me go back out to the back and go find those old missing ROs. I think more dollars to your store. So some of the ways that we have, and this is with our software, we have different abilities to find and recapture some of the service. We have our invite program, and our invite program is kind of a marketing tool. It's an outbound, it's an email, and we can provide call lists, and it's an outbound marketing tool that we can use to kind of recapture that business, and also make sure that nothing gets kind of lost in the mix, and anything that you need for your service staff or your BDC to call on it at the end of the month, we can provide that. So the store I was at in the Midwest, the Honda store, they actually were doing a 3-day, 10-day, 3-day, 14-day, and 30-day service follow-ups. So 3 days, they would remind the customer, hey, you had these recommendations and we need to get these done. 10 days, they started offering the discounts. And then by, I think it was 30 days, I want to say 30 days, they were giving the house away, 20% off. And last year during the slowdown, a lot of people were holding on to coupons and waiting, and they just got slammed with a lot of people that came in when they were starting to get the 30 days, 20% off. So what we actually did in this particular store, and a lot of the stores are starting to follow suit, we're actually not giving a discount. And what we do is we're doing a 3-day follow-up. So 3 days, it's still kind of warm. They probably shopped you by that point. It's a 3-day follow-up. Hey, last time you were in here on Monday, we recommended brakes, a brake flush, tires. You can still schedule that service. In our invite program, you can schedule right through that. We send out the reminders. You can click right into our service. 10 days, we still remind them about it. We don't want it to not go away. We don't want them to forget that it's due. And 21 days, I think 21 days is 3 weeks. I think that's still a good number. I think 30 days, this is me speaking, but everybody's different. I think 30 days is a little too long. You know, by then they've either traded it in or got a new, got it done by then. But we don't give a discount. We're just reminding them that the service that we recommended is due. And that builds value into our service at your dealership. And it also builds value that you do care. And without having to give away the house. Because now we're doing follow-up. And in today's world, it's all about, now. So when you're doing that follow-up and they see that you're consistently checking in on them, more than likely they're going to come back to you. So with that, you don't have to find that coupon that's sitting around that, I might have one in my desk. The problem with that is, the first thing they're going to say is, well, if you had that coupon, how come you just didn't offer that to me from the get-go? So let's avoid that. Let's not even go there. Let's keep the value in our service. And we've actually done some studies where we find younger shoppers, particularly millennials, don't want to haggle. They actually want to know a price. They're going to search it. They're going to Google. They're going to Yelp you. They're going to look it up. But if they know the price and they know what to expect, they're more than likely going to make a decision based off of perceived value and relationship. So that's where we need to look for in 2020.
Michael, I could add, we're not saying as a general rule that you can't discount a service. That's not what we're saying. But what we would like to see, and what we've seen a lot of stores be very successful at, is shifting the discounting and the couponing to a special event. Because every service visit isn't a special event. And so if you've got a process where you're offering a discount immediately, and that's making the assumption that every single customer doesn't buy because of price. I mean, because you're sending a coupon to motivate behavior. So, our position is, especially if you've got invite, let's use discounting or couponing to fill up different spots of the day in the schedule where we're slow. Or let's do a special spring tire event, or let's just do something that is not directly associated with a specific repair or a specific need that was turned down on it. So I don't want folks in the audience to get the impression that we're saying you should never discount. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is let's let that transaction stand on its own and build value in our pricing from the beginning. I think, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michael, but I just wanted to make that, because I think it's really important. It is really, the OE service game and having a franchise dealer, it's expensive. Special tools, special training, all the things that go along with that. And putting yourself in a position where you feel compelled to have to discount every service, I mean, that's just not profitable, So let's just try to stand on the value that's there. So Michael, it looks like, yeah, there you go. So We'll get back. Let's see real quick. We don't have any questions that have come in yet. Okay, well, hold on. We do have one question. So from Sam, what is the follow-up? Email first, mail, explain. So you're talking about the touch points that you had. And I believe you're talking specifically about invite campaigns, but I'm assuming he said, are we emailing them? Are we mailing them? Are we calling them?
So what we provide, we do email. We don't do any direct mail pieces. A lot of our dealers will actually, when they're mandated by their OEM to do a mail piece at $3.49 per name, they'll give us lists and we can create email campaigns for them from those lists. We do email lists primarily. We also are able to provide call lists, outbound lists, for clients. Those are things that we can create, with our invite program. So those are best practices for us in our invite side.
Yeah. So one example of that, Sam, might be, let's say that in April, you've got a buy three, get one. So you buy 3 tires, get a set of tires. And so what you might want to do with the invite tool would be to go in and say, hey, I want to do a campaign on everybody that's turned down tires in January, February, and March. Would be an example of a campaign. And we might do an email blast, and we might couple that with a call list where we can call and verify that they got the email, something like that.
Sure. And this is one of the stores I just pulled, just a generic report, but this shows you 3-day decline, and this is, it shows you customers, how many. There's different metrics here, but it's how many people qualified for the campaign, how many people had good information, how many people clicked, opened, scheduled, and then you can see dollars that came in off the appointment. So these are some of the different services and some of the different campaigns that we can provide with our invite program. And the dealers that do use this are very successful. And I'm going to show you shortly some of how you find some of these reports. And even dealers that don't have our invite program but do have inspect and do have decline services, you are able to still get this reporting, and I'll get into that. So moving along. So one of the things one of our best practices is, we try to touch those customers at least 3 times. And we talked internally about this, and we kind of compared it to, a sales department, where, if the sales department gets a hot lead, or they know that somebody wants a car, they're going to call you until you've literally told them, don't call them, or I'm going to put you on the block call list. It's the same with a decline service. So a decline service, it's not a cold lead, it's a warm lead. We've told the customer already that they have this service need. So it's not out of the blue. So if we do follow up with them, we're not calling them and they're not surprised. Oh yeah, I know you told me about that last time. I'm still, I'm waiting to get paid. It could be something as simple as I have other bills, but they know. So we can do 2 or 3 follow-ups. It's not, something that we can't follow up with. And this goes into some of the different approaches we can do to some of the contacts. Some of the more successful dealers I have seen will actually set up their either service advisors, maybe some of their BDC reps. And what they'll do, and again, it's not everybody, but some of the more successful ones, they might incentivize their staff to contact those customers that have those decline services. So let's say it's end of the month, we're always pressing to close all the ROs out. Take this list of decline services and, call the BDC, hey, listen, get these people in here, $2 for every RO, every customer that shows up off this list. People are incentivized by money. So that's something we see a lot of. Some of the dealers will have the advisors call, and that's just simply because the advisors already have that relationship with those clients. So if I'm calling and they don't know me, the client doesn't know me necessarily, it might not have the same effect as if my counterpart Jim that's standing next to me at the service desk calls, and he knows Mrs. Jones, he knows when her dog gets pedicures and things like that, and he's, hey, Mrs. Jones, I want to make sure you and Fluffy are good going to the pedicure. Did you want to get those brakes done? And she's going to love it. So every store has their own process, but those are some of the things that some of the more successful ones do, and they see the retention and they see those gross profit dollars coming back in.
Michael, we had a question. If you go back to that last slide from
Sure.
Timothy Wood, he asked, outside of the BDC or Xtime specific follow-up event, I'm assuming that we'd be talking about invite, what can be done at the dealership level or at the service counter? And that last bullet point on there, can you expand on that, inspect customer reports? And I know you're going to show it shortly, but just talk quickly about that.
So when I was actually in retail and I worked at an Acura store, I'm in rainy Connecticut today. So I worked at an Acura store, in this state. And we were very good. I mean, we had high CSI. We had really good relationships with our clients. But I mean, there's not a lot of Acuras on the road. So what I did as the FOD, at the end of every month, I would take a list, and I'll show you guys where you can find this, but I would give the advisors all their declined services for a certain time frame. Sometimes I would do it by a price point. And there's a custom report that you can run it. You can run it by an advisor, you can run it by a price point, you can run it by a repair. There's lots of different options to run it. I'd hand it to them, and I'd say, hey, get as many of these as, many of these people as you can back in. And it wasn't, again, we didn't have to give the service away because the clients knew about the work. It was just a reminder almost, hey, by the way, did you get this done? If not, are you still ready? Do you want to get this done still? So that's where that advisor call list comes from. And I'll show you that actually. I'll show you that here in 1 second. Because there's a lot of different reports. There's about 4 or 5 different reports I want to show you. And these are some of those right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch screens real quick. Give me 1 second here, guys.
Trials and tribulations of a live webinar, folks. Sorry about that. It's going to be we'll get it switched over.
And this is my first one too, so don't beat me up too much. Give me 1 second. Daryl, are you able to just pause the screen real quick for me?
Michael, you're going to have to do that on your end since you've got control.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, perfect.
Just make that a little bigger, Michael, so everyone can see it if you can. Perfect.
So this is our test. So I'm going to go into one of my test stores here. We have a lot of different test stores. And so what you can do, there's a few different reports that we use. The first one I was actually referring to is a custom report we have. And this is what we do here. And this one can be run lots of different ways. And you can run it for current month, previous month. There's custom ranges for different dates. If you want to run it for 1st to the 15th, 15th to 31st, however you want to run it. Different formats it can come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all repair orders that showed up, and you can run it for customer, warranty, you can do red, yellow. So maybe you want to get a list of soft sales, and you take a list of customers that had yellow MPIs, but they still declined the service. You kind of setting them up for the next service. Hey, next time you come in, your brakes are at 4 millimeter, you'll probably be due. Do you want me to set you up with a loaner for this next visit? It's all in your approach. It's all in your process. So and then you can run it. I mean, you can run it here. RO numbers, VIN, year, make, model, mileage. If you want to do 60,000 and over vehicles, advisor, technician, teams, price range. And a lot of times we see a lot of dealers will use a price range. And this is where, if they're doing price range, they're going to spiff different amounts for different price ranges. 0 to 249 might get $1. 250 to 1,000 might get $5. 1,000 and up, 10. Everybody has their own process. I'm just showing you how you can do it. So once you get there, so we have this report here, and this report is very thorough. It gives you an RO, gives you the date close, and you can go all the way across. This is just generic. This is an internal report. It's not really any real customer, but it shows you year, make, model, the advisor that had it, how many hours were requested, what was sold. And this is the good one for, you can see call attempts. I mean, there's so much here. So this can be ran in different, increments of mileage, price points, advisors, technicians, labor ops. If a lot of Toyota stores, when they're doing the filters, they'll refer back to this, and they'll run this, to get the filter, those filter specials they do twice a year, they'll run this report. Honda does the same thing when they do the back to school, they'll run this report to see how many people decline to work. So this is a decline service report. And this one can be run outside of having our invite. You can just run this and, just hand it to your advisors and have them call. A couple other ones I do want to show you briefly. I'm not going to hold you up too long. One that probably the first report that we, the members of my team talk about is what we call the technician RO ASR report. And this one is usually the one that gets the most, it gets the most response from dealership personnel, good or bad. But this one, I mean, it has these bright colors, bright green, bright red, dollar amounts. This one gets a lot of response, good or bad. So what this shows is it shows a technician, shows how many ROs technician had, he or she, and it shows you, how many they inspected, how many had upsells on them, how many they, were emailed out, et cetera, et cetera. Shows you average mileage. So this, 50,000 miles. Shows you how many hours were requested, sold, not sold. So, I mean, this is a generic one, but this one right here, when it's in a full live dealership and, dealers saying, my ASR numbers are low, my decline numbers are low, we'll pull this up and we'll say, well, he had 45 ROs, he inspected 42, he had 12 that had upsell on them. His average miles was 80,000 miles. So that's where we can get a lot of traction here. This one is also good for dealers that are heavy with quick change or quick lanes or, a speedy oil change department. Typically, we'll see a lot of times where that department will have a lot of inspections, a lot of ROs, a lot of inspections, but not a lot of upsell. And, that'll kind of formulate a team process where there's somebody that's overseeing or a dispatcher that's overlooking those ROs to make sure those ROs don't get touched, because the quick change gets the most touches in the dealership. So we want to make sure that their ROs are being fully inspected and do have upsells on them as well. Another one, I mean, I won't go too many, but there's a lot of different options here. ROs missing inspections, ROs with no recommendations, ROs no recommendations by advisor, technician. One of the things some of the more successful dealers that I have will do is their service management staff will actually get notifications sent to them where, vehicle over X amount of miles with no inspection or no ASR, or vehicle's been in certain mode for more than X amount of time, and they'll set up notifications. Notifications can come to your phone, come to your email, they can be a pop-up browser. It's not any high level setups, it's just simply caring and just making sure that you're watching what's coming into your shop so nothing will go out of the shop. I'm going to pull one more up here, and for client services, I just want to show a couple different ones that I think are good. So another one that we typically will lean on is, this is our quote microsite utilization. This shows you how many visits your store will have, how many ROs came in with ASRs, upsells. Shows you your booklets printed, your emails printed, and how many text quotes are sent. So this one's good for dealers that are, sending and printing booklets out, but also sending text quotes out. And we've seen very good success with the text quotes. Customer gets the text quote, they get it within a minute of it being sent. You can track the whole process. You can see the text sent, you can see when it's received, when it's opened, you can see when the client responds to it. Anybody that's attached to that RO will get a notification that there's been a change to that RO. So, I mean, the quote tool is great. You're not sitting there all day long. I couldn't reach her. Then they come to pick up the car. How come you didn't do the work? I couldn't reach you. I didn't have approval. Texting is definitely our wave of the future for us. All right. So, Daryl, do you have anything with that? Is there any other reports that you think would be beneficial?
That hits the most of them. But if you go back to your presentation, Michael, let's just, we've got a couple of accountability steps we'd like to share with you. And then, of course, all the reports that Michael is looking at, we've listed them out in the presentation as well. So grab that handout and you'll see those. And I think it's important to note, it's super simple. The top of the inspect dash, when you log in, you're going to get the dashboard. But if you slide over a couple of ticks, that's where you're going to see that reports tab. So grab that report tab, play around with it. The custom report he started with today was just right on the bottom, just says custom reports, and really that is a fantastic way to grab virtually all the information in the tool and create your own reports. The great thing is you're going to build those in Excel. So you can, once you get a report in Excel, you can do anything in the world with it, right? So if you've got maybe an outside marketing company, or maybe you do want to do a mailer, or however you want to use it, and once you get into that Excel file, then it's super easy to use that data.
Sure, absolutely. And the more successful dealers that are using it and doing the follow-ups are using the data. I mean, they're whatever way they need it, it's there. They can use it whatever way, they can print it however. But yeah, they definitely dive into the data, definitely. So for, the biggest thing the most successful dealers have is just consistent process, doing inspections on, all the CPROs, just making sure that there's no, some days we do this, some days we do that. Customers will embrace your process as long as they know the process. So if we do it the same way every time, they'll know what to expect. Some dealers I've seen in the past wouldn't give out green MPIs. And, one of the things I learned in retail, sell the green. So by the fourth or fifth time they've got a green MPI, they're almost asking you, when do I spend some money? Because, you've told me everything has been good for 30,000 miles. I mean, that's an alley-oop right there. So the next time they come in, you can start sending them up a yellow, red. But the process has to be the same every time. You have to treat that customer 5,000 miles the same as you treat the customer with 100,000 miles. We know about the touches, so make sure, everybody's ROs are getting the same amount of value in the same amount of time. So we don't, skip over quick lane, or, maybe even something that's coming in for a check engine light. We need to treat every RO the same. So we need to do the same inspection process. The notifications are very big. I always recommend setting up notifications. Pop-up browsers are good. They'll come right on your computer screen. The dealers that are dialed in, I mean, they're getting them on their phones, and the service directors are walking the shop and they're finding the cars that have been sitting for 25, 30 minutes with no inspection, or 100,000 miles with no recommendations. And don't get me wrong, not every car is going to need something, but more than likely, if it's got 100,000 miles on it, it's going to need wipers, or it's going to need something. So, the notifications are good. I won't go into that too much, but if anybody has any questions about notifications and how to set them up, feel free to email me or give me a call. My information will be here at the end.
Michael, can you switch us back? I know we're almost done here, folks, but can you switch us back to the test instance just real quick? And I think it'd be really important, especially for the managers on the phone, to understand, we've actually added some new notifications that have, time-based and some different, so if you could just get back to the app real quick, Michael, and would you see up there where it says Michael's name in the top right-hand corner? Click on that. So for those of you that are logged in to inspect on a regular basis, you're going to see right there is how you're going to get to your notification. So if Michael wanted to click on his, he's going to go to Manage Account, and then you're going to see a long list available to you of different notifications that you can get to better manage, vehicles with no ROs, which ones do you have? So just depending upon your store level, we're at an admin level. We don't have that long laundry list of things, but I would encourage you to jump in there and take a peek at those.
Right. Yeah. If you go here, you'll see there's a long list, and I mean, it's like Daryl was saying, for the dialed in dealers, you can, time and mode, X over Y, not inspected. I mean, there's just so much. I would definitely spend some time in there. It's great information, and get the notifications sent. I mean, it's dollars, for the store. So no, I definitely that's a great point. I definitely agree with that.
All right. Well, take us back to the last slide, Michael, so we can make sure everybody gets your information. I do have one question come in. How are decline services tracked by you? Red lines, specific opcodes. So I'll take that one. So in the tool, every ROS that flows through the tool comes to mode 3, which is where we provide a quote to the customer. And then we're going to either thumbs up or thumbs down that recommendation. So it's an initial service recommendation line. It's got a thumbs up, a thumbs down. You mark it red or yellow, or red or green. If it's green, it's going to get pushed through to the technician. They know they need to do the work. If it's red, then we're going to file that away, and that's what creates that declined service. So it's not necessarily tied to any specific opcode. It's really tied to a service name. And then in our system, we just convert that to a declined service. So it flows through the systems very easily, and we don't have a lot of opcode failures and things like that. So that's a really good question, Sloan. And if you need more information, you can follow up with your performance manager. Michael's got his information on the screen today. That's also going to be included in the PowerPoint PDF that I've got included in the handout section if you want to grab that. And of course, you got an email from me today reminding you of the webinar. If you've got any questions, certainly email me. We really appreciate everybody's time today and hope you got something out of this. But hey, us in performance management, we're really here for only one reason. We're not here to sell. We're not here to, do anything other than just support you guys and make sure that you guys are getting the most return on your investment, in the software, which in turn makes more money and creates happier customers. So again, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you, Michael. You did a great job.
Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free. If you need to, get a hold of anybody on your, your performance manager, my information's right here. Love to hear from you.
All right, everyone have a great afternoon. Thanks a lot.